All right, I think we are good to go. Saw this, so we could start with thanks over on Twitch. Shout out my friend to Alec Kanuke. My apologies if I got the wrong name or pronunciation there, but I appreciate the follow there on Twitch a couple days ago. I'm assuming maybe you caught last week's stream, perhaps, where we were playing with OpenClaw. I don't know if you'll see this or not, but appreciate the follow nonetheless, my friend. Back here. Fine, okay. Is over here. All right. Some tunes in the background here. All right, what's up, C. Grover? Good morning. Coffee cheers. Yeah. All right, so welcome. Wow, that's pretty sweet. I've never seen this little Lego lighting thing before. So yes, welcome. Thanks for anyone who's watching. If you are new and don't know, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. I usually stream around this time each week, about 10 a.m. Central Time. And I typically stream working on stuff related to CircuitPython. If you don't know what CircuitPython is, you can learn more about it at the main website here, circuitpython.org. The very, very quick high-level version is it is a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. When you choose to use CircuitPython with these devices, the way it typically works, you plug it into your computer with a USB cable. It shows up like a thumb drive. You can edit a Python code file on that thumb drive, and when you save it, the microcontroller will actually run the Python code for you. And then the code itself can interface with all sorts of other hardware peripherals that you connect up to it, like Wi-Fi and SD cards, displays, and all kinds of fun things like that. Like I said, circuitpython.org, that's where you can learn more about it. CircuitPython is an open source project. Anyone's allowed to use it. Anyone's allowed to port it even to their own microcontrollers. If you are a company or an individual who's made your own microcontroller, you can add support to that device for CircuitPython. You don't have to pay anyone to do that. It's all open source. And the company that makes that possible is Adafruit. Adafruit pays a team of developers, including myself, to work on the CircuitPython project, as well as lots of other things. There are lots of other stuff in the Adafruit development wheelhouse. They pay lots of people to work on lots of different open source code, which is, I think, obviously very awesome and commendable. So huge thanks to them. If you would like to support them and those of us that get paid by them to work on CircuitPython and other open source projects, consider purchasing hardware at their website, which you can do, adafruit.com. You can get yourself microcontrollers. You can get yourself add-ons, plugins, peripherals to hook up to your microcontroller to do other stuff with. Okay. PewDiePie. Is it? Well, power management, though. Okay, no, not quite. In any case, sorry, that was my own little brain tangent there. Yeah, Adafruit.com. Thanks to anyone who purchases hardware from them. Thanks to them for making CircuitPython and all of the rest of the open source work possible that they do. Today, I am almost doing a bit of a follow-up of last week, a little bit in a way, but not quite exactly. So last week on my stream, we looked at OpenClaw on the Raspberry Pi. The guide is out for that now, so if you are interested in catching up with what we did last week, or learning, following a tutorial to be able to do a similar type of thing on your Raspberry Pi, the guide's out now on learn.adafruit.com. And I am back to running AI agents on a Raspberry Pi, but this time I am not using OpenClaw. This time I am using this one, which Scott mentioned, using this Pi coding agent. I do actually have this running on a Raspberry Pi. Have Raspberry Pi VNC loaded up here. You can see it's the stock Raspberry Pi OS. But that is not what the name references. This just happens to also be named Pi. So this is a coding agent that, sort of like OpenClaw, sort of like Claude Code. It runs in your terminal. It is able to like read files, write files, and then, interact with the LLM. And it can learn tools, skills similar to how OpenClaw can. But it does not have exactly all of the same stuff that OpenClaw did. I think this one is quite minimal. I don't know that it has built in any of the memory or any of that kind of stuff like OpenClaw was keeping, daily journals and stuff. It may even be the case that OpenClaw was built from this thing. I'm not entirely sure on that, but they point to it here as an example of a integration, a real world integration. So, yeah, in any case. So this one's interesting. This is what Scott's been using as I understand it. So I wanted to give this one a try. It can work with lots of different models. You can, log into Claude Code with it. You can log into OpenAI. There are a handful of others, which I am less familiar with, that this thing supports also. But I have set it up with OpenAI. I am also testing out, in addition to this Pi coding agent, I'm kind of testing out Codex at the same time, which is OpenAI's software development specific sort of line of models. They're not just a general LLM that can that's intended to do anything and everything, like write poems and summarize and translate. Like this one is not general like that. It's meant specifically more for coding and software tasks. So we have Pi coding agent, we're hooked up to Codex, and the actual, so like, half of my brain is in experiment with those two tools, right? Because this is my first time using either of them. It's my first time using this Pi coding agent. It's also my first time really using Codex. So sort of half of my interest is experiment with those two tools. And then the thing that I'm actually working on, because it's a coding agent, we need something to code essentially. The thing that I'm actually working on to try to accomplish, aside from just experiment with those things and play around a bit, is make a port of this TinyWiki project. So Kevin McAleer, which is, I apologize, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation or not. This person is on YouTube. They've had some cool YouTube videos that I've caught. And they also do lots of open source stuff, it turns out, here on GitHub. So there's loads of different robots and other projects that are open sourced by this person. Super cool giant list here if you're interested in more of their work. Today I'm looking at this TinyWiki, which is a MicroPython implementation of a very basic wiki system. So you might be familiar with wikis from like Wikipedia, obviously is probably the biggest example, but lots of other like fandom wikis. If you're interested in a game or a TV show or whatever, there's lots of these sites that will pop up with a wiki of information about that topic, whatever it is. And so this is kind of like a system to build one of those wikis about whatever topic you want. But it is all stored and hosted from a microcontroller. In this case, a MicroPython device, I think ESP32. Yeah, ESP32 based, or actually it looks like PicoW as well, or Nano, which is, I think, probably similar to PicoW, although I'm not sure, or ESP32 again. So there's a couple of different boards it supports, but this one is all through MicroPython. So what I would like to do is try to port this over to make a CircuitPython implementation that we can use inside CircuitPython. And where I'm going to start is getting the code, because we will want that. Let's just clear this one for now. Actually, I have two terminals, that's right. Let's leave this one. Okay, I think I should close this one probably. So again, this is all super duper brand new to me. I don't know. I'm assuming that it makes the most sense to close that one because that was like a different session working on a different thing. That was a test I did with it just to make sure it was working because it actually took me a minute to get set up and working. And so we don't want it to like consider that thing that it did before whenever we ask it to do something again. So I think we want a new session. In any case, we want to clone this thing. So I think what I'm going to do is make a circuit Python TinyWiki port. I'm going to clone this. And I'm going to try to break it down into a couple of the steps that I think will make sense to do with this. But again, I'm brand new to it, so I have no idea if this will work out how I'm thinking. But I'm going to give it a try this way. So there's a bunch of these templates, which are basically HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, but they are currently stored inside of a Python file, which has functions that populate the templates. In CircuitPython, we actually have, shout out to Mikhail Pokusa, whose name I was just about to type, even though I was trying to think about it to say. CircuitPython template engine right here. We have a template engine library which lets us do this without these sort of little customized one-off functions. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is try to get it to break out the HTML from here into separate files, and I think that should be fairly easy. I'm just going to make a templates because eventually I want them to land there. And I am going to check the name of this file again. This was just templates.py, so I am going to try this. I don't know if I assume it sees the directory we're in. Yeah, looks like here it's got the directory listed, so. And I currently have it set to Codex Mini, which is like one of the smaller ones. You have a higher limit if you use this one, and there are a couple of other bigger, there's like Codex, I don't know, Codex Regular, Codex Max. There's also 5.2 and a 5.3 now. I don't really know the difference between all of them, so I just stuck with this one to start with to learn like what is the lowest level one, get my head wrapped around that, and then kind of go from there. So it is got a terminal interface. We can just talk to it here in the terminal, and much like OpenClaw and Claude Code, it's able to read and write files and do stuff. So I think we should be able to just ask it, please break out the templates from templates.py into I always misspell this word if I'm on a I might actually be correct, but obviously I stumbled over it, and I still am not 100% sure, but it'll probably know what I mean. Just break out the templates from templates.py into separate HTML files and put them inside of templates directory. So it found. Okay, I forgot to tell it to go inside of TinyWiki. But it looked, it ran find. It was able to find that anyway. Looks like it tried to import it or something, and that failed. TinyWiki earlier, TinyWiki main. I don't know why it's reading all of this. Pathia config. All right, we'll see what it ends up with here. Seems like it's going a little bit off the beaten path. But it might make it back in the end. So this looks mostly correct so far, I think. Page exists, view page missing, edit page. While that's working, another thing I'm gonna do is this up. Hmm. Not run, not requested. We have a slight problem. Maybe that worked. Right. Okay. So the thing is that I do have this running on a Raspberry Pi. I also have made it its own user account on Linux on the Pi. So it has its own user whose name is Agent. I'm not very creative. And I want to be able to connect, basically I want to be able to mount the files so that I can open it in PyCharm on my desktop here. But I don't have access to the files. I think if I... So I think these are like owner and group or something. Is that right? Could I add myself to the group called agent? And then I would be able to see stuff? Or does that not work like that? Oh, but these are only on self anyway. Okay, so we have a little bit of a hurdle. I need to be able to like give my user access to the agent user's home directory. Linux grant other user access to home directory. Create a partition for the data you want to share. Okay, what if we aim lower than home? What if we tried for the working repo, the working directory that the project is in? Which was here. So yeah, we'll have to work through some of this stuff as we go here. So this is actually already owner and group, readable and writable and executable, and even other readable. So technically I could read this folder, but I couldn't write to it. But I think if I add myself to the agent group, that's a thing. To group. Your mod AG group name username. Group name agent. Your name me. And then mount that. Work. That home agent. Can I do this now? No. That. What's up, Johnny? Nice to see you, my friend. I mean, we could try this. I feel like I'd rather just use the SSH thing that I'm doing. I'm very used to it. I don't really want to try to set up a shared folder thing. Why can I, so can I ls that folder? That folder. Even though I added myself to agent. Log out and back in? No, this doesn't work. Adding myself to that group did not matter. Does the mount need a sudo? I don't. Well, kind of, sort of, but not exactly, really, because. So if I just tag a sudo on front of the command that's doing it, then that's going to run sudo on my local machine, which is not going to help it, really. My Linux machine that I'm streaming from and everything. Really, kind of what I need it is to like SSH in and then sudo and then mount the directory that it will be able to see because it's sudo. But I don't have an easy way to do that. Honestly, you know what? This is all silly. Honestly, this is a little bit silly. Here's what we should do is we can just copy my key to the agent user, and then I can SSH to agent directly instead of me. Then it should work. Pretty sure. Copy my SSH config in my users directory on the Pi, though. Copy that over to agent. I'm actually just going to call it SSH backup for now. And then we need to give agent, so it's like I sudo copied that, so right now root owns it, so sudo chown agent SSH backup. So now agent should own it, so we should be able to be, let's go like this. Yeah, not exactly, really. Posted on YouTube by mistake, no worries. Yeah, I was helping out a pal getting started in CircuitPython. He got hooked up on the choice of IDE. Isn't Thonny a good noob one? He didn't like it. I'm not sure what to suggest to him. Yeah, I will say, unfortunately, the IDE situation is not super duper great for new users. So here's the options that I'm aware of. Thonny is out there, and I do think it's okay for new users, but it's not sort of inherently CircuitPython-ish, because Thonny is still, as far as I know, which I don't have much experience with it, I could be wrong, it could have gotten updated, or I could just be wrong in general. But my understanding is Thonny, it uses like AMPY, uses like the serial connection to write files, not the CircuitPy drive, is my understanding, which makes it a little bit of awkward. And it also, sometimes you could click run and it tries to run on the local computer, not the, so it can be problematic in those ways, I think. There's Moo, but it's kind of like discontinued. That's what we always suggested for the longest time, but it's discontinued, so it's not really getting updates. It does work as far as I know still, so like you could keep using Moo. The other option, the third option I would say that's not bad for new users is like code.circuitpython.org. So we have the web-based editor. Now for for USB connection, It's kind of like the most basic. You have to use Chrome, I think. I don't think Firefox works if memory serves. Wi-Fi, I think you can use any browser, but I'm not positive. Bluetooth, I'm not sure about. Bluetooth might be Chrome also, but I have no idea. And then it kind of depends on which device you have. So if you have a device with a USB chip and it has the CircuitPy drive and everything, like USB is pretty, I think, the easiest to do because you don't have to worry about getting Wi-Fi credentials and all that stuff. But it does require Chrome for the USB thing. Excuse me. If you have like an ESP32, which doesn't show up as a CircuitPy drive, then Wi-Fi is your option there. Bluetooth is out and Firefox is out. Yeah, I would say either stick with Mu for the time being, or try code.circuitpython.org with the USB connection. Those are kind of the like top two sort of new user IDE choices that I'm aware of. There is one, isn't River, is it Riverwing, CircuitPython Online? I don't have experience with this one, but I would say maybe give this one a try. CircuitPython Online IDE, a link in the chat here. I've seen this pop up a few times in the chat and the in the newsletter and stuff, and it is looking like that's Chrome as well. Or when I say Chrome, really, I just mean doesn't work with Firefox. It uses Chromium based ones that have the USB APIs. This one might be worth a shot, honestly. I've heard pretty good things about it. I think I've seen a couple of folks who used it in the chat and stuff. So looking here, honestly, it looks pretty sweet. It's got the plotter, even the serial and stuff. So this one might be a good one to consider as well as like an alternative to code.circuitpython.org. It's similar in that it runs in the browser, just made by a third-party community member. All right, so where are we at here? So I am in agent now. Let's go to home directory, and then let's go and move. Let's make sure we own this, right? Yeah, say also this is ours now. SSH backup. So we can go move that to .ssh, and now this has authorized keys, which means we should be able to SSH to it. We will just need to set the name to agent. Should work. So we can go agent at, and then we can do the whole home directory because we'll be this user. Nice. Let's make sure that worked. Indeed. Okay, perfect. Yeah, there we go. I don't know why I was trying to bother with change users and okay. So now we can finally go back and open this. All right, so what it has done, indeed, it created all of these files. It did mess up these, it looks like, unless these were doubled up originally. Oh, it like converted this. Okay, this is not what we wanted at all. It like converted this to use those other files. I wanted it to just break them out, not change the Python code. I'm surprised this doesn't show the Git stuff. Why does this not show the Git stuff? Ownership? Modified templates. Okay. How do we, I want to say, is there a revert or something on this? No revert, no undo. I know it has like forking and all kinds of stuff. All right, so it doubled up oh, all of these were like this already, actually. Huh. I don't know why they're like that. Maybe the way that the formatting works? Okay. So it did change templates.py, which I didn't really want it to do. But that's fine for now. I think we could always just git revert that. The next thing we need to fix though is these are doubled up. We need these to be single curly brackets. And then we need to ultimately be able to fill stuff in with double curly brackets. I wonder if it will be able to fix that, especially if I tell it maybe. Well, let's start with, did it only mess up the CSS? Did it pay? Honestly, the rest of these are very simple. It looks like only base. So only the CSS. Okay. Yeah. Oh, wrong one. Okay. Reworked to load those files. Yeah, that's the part I didn't really ask for, but it did. That's fine though. Kept as standalone files. Okay, so can you fix the curly bracket syntax in the CSS portion of base.html, please? It looks like the curly brackets are doubled up. Can you change them to singles to make valid CSS? Okay, obviously we could fix this with like find replace or whatever, right? But again, like at least half of my intent here is to play with the tools a bit, figure this kind of stuff out. So it's gonna go and like modify the code that does this again for some reason. Substitute. I don't know. We don't really care if it changes. I mean, I could have told it to stop changing templates.py, I suppose. So swap the base template loading to do that. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I rewrote this. I think we don't want that. So I guess I needed to be more specific. So those are singles now, but it went and added these $signs, which we didn't really want, because it also went and changed templates.py. But like really the problem we're having is it's trying to use too much. Like I'm trying to get it to just break out the HTML code from that templates.py, and it's like, oh, let me make sure it keeps working with templates.py. But the truth is, I don't really need it. I don't really need it to work with templates.py. We're going to redo that bit of it anyway. Separate ARATE is correct. I always have to look it up too. Nice. Yeah, I usually just guess wrong, and then the spell checker, which is me. And I swear, like, I remember the right way, and then the next time I do it, I'm like, oh yeah, I got it the right way now. I remember it, and then I'm still wrong, and I'm like, I don't know. Okay. So we could just take these dollar signs out. I'm gonna try to get it to like, try one more time here to see if we can get it to just not do that. Please don't change templates.py file anymore. Ultimately, we aren't going to use that anymore anyway. Can you remove the dollar sign? Well, yeah. We don't want those dollar signs. And then these are going to be fine, I think, because those our template engine should ignore because they're not doubles now. So please remove the dollar signs that you added to the like substitution variables. And make variables in the template HTML file need to use this syntax. Var name. There we go. Did this really have a giant space? I don't think this really had a giant space. All right. Placeholder variables now use double curly brackets. Untouched. Nice. Perfect. Well, it says it did the right thing. Let's look. Yeah, okay. So this is a nice thing about having this like SSHFS thing going here is I can have this file open my editor and I can just live look at what it's doing. If we had a Git repo here, I could even kind of check the Git diff and stuff. I don't know. I think it's not doing that because I'm here when the Git is actually here. I don't know. But pretty cool nonetheless. Okay, so this is all fixed up. So the next thing that I want it to do, so these should be... no, actually, we needed to update the rest of the files as well. That the rest of the HTML files need double curly bracket quotings. All right, so perfect. Can you please update the variables in the rest of the HTML files side of templates folder to use the double curly bracket syntax? And I'm going to even say the proper. I don't know if that's going to help, but thanks for the IDE suggestions, by the way. Yeah, for sure. Nice, there we go. And it should go through and fix the rest of these. New page was last. Oh. And new page error HTML should be there. Updated every HTML file and templates. Use that. They now match this while keeping the logic untouched. Okay. I will say sometimes I think this thing doesn't update. So yeah, see, like right there. I think it just was like not refreshing really. Because the editor, the PyCharm editor is not necessarily really expecting those files to just change out from underneath it really. It's sort of fair, but all right, so those are updated, double curlies. I think we're good there. So we have all these HTML pages now. The next thing that we want to do is get rid of TinyWiki for now. Should I start a new context or not? I think I should just start a new context because this one has got all that stuff where it was trying to modify templates HTML, and I don't want it to consider that at all. That was all like off the path, not really what we wanted. We made it back to the path and we're good now, but we don't want it to like consider that anymore moving forwards. And in fact, even more so, we really just don't want it to consider anything inside of TinyWiki anymore. So I think what I'm going to do is just go move TinyWiki up so that it's no longer in this directory. We're left with just templates only. And then next, what I would like to do is go back into here. And I don't know if this is going to work or not. Actually, let's do a couple of things before this. Let's make a virtual environment, a Python virtual environment that it can use. So I'm going to go up to the agent's home directory. Hopefully it's not going to look at TinyWiki and get confused anymore. Go up to here. I'm going to make a virtual environment. So Python, this should work, right? Python, yes. Python m vmv agent vmv. Maybe I want PyTest? Is that pre-installed? I don't remember. I don't know. I don't do... So one thing is I don't do a whole lot of automated testing, but I am going to experiment with that as I do this. And I think PyTest is okay. Yeah, I think we want that for now. So let's go. Get into that environment and install PyTest inside of it. So source agent bin activate pip install PyTest. Check the name. Yeah. Okay. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to write tests that would validate a web server that works with those HTML files. And then I'm going to try to have it write the web server afterwards so that we can use the test to know when the server is done and working. That's kind of the idea, at least. I don't know if that's going to work, but I think that's the plan of action here. So I'll go back inside of here because I do want it to just stay in here. One thing I will do is I think we can give it a agent, or is it agents? Markdown. Agents.markdown. There's a global one. I'm pretty sure there's a project one as well. We could test this. So let's go new file, agents.markdown. Your Python virtual environment is located at home agent env. That's the right one, right? Yeah. Home agent underscore vm. So I think it will load this file automatically. So we can put like project specific stuff that will help it in here, if I understand correctly. If we go like py like this, and then, oh, context, yeah, look at that. It does still say 0% though, so I think it hasn't actually loaded. Can you tell me where your Python virtual environment is located? Okay, yeah. Can you please try to activate the environment, that env, and see if import PyTest works? Succeeded. Okay. Cool. I think there's a way I can restart that without actually exiting like that, but I'm going to exit and restart again. And I am going to say, should we switch to off of mini? I don't know. I'm just going to keep going on mini, honestly, until does something super duper crazy. All right, so we have all the HTML files, and the HTML files have like where they're gonna send a post to. So it should like theoretically be able to know from where all these links and posts and all this stuff, it should be able to know like vaguely sort of what the server endpoints need to be. It might not know how they need to act all the way just yet, but it should be able to at least figure out which endpoints need to exist, what methods they need to expect, what kind of data is getting sent to them, that kind of stuff. What kind of data they're returning in some cases, because if it's like a link, then it knows it's going to return a page or whatever. So let's try this. Can you write a test script using PyTest that would validate all of the this is another one I usually mess up. Necessary, is it 2 C's? I'm not sure. Necessary endpoints. Validate all of the necessary endpoints for a web server application that could host those HTML templates. Do not try to write any part of the server yet. Just right now, I just want a test script that will validate the server. Okay. It is reading all kinds of stuff still. TinyWiki, it's going into the README here. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to run to the restroom real fast. I'll be right back. Okay. Look at what it did. Like it created test server endpoints. Set of tests. Ouch. We have endpoint URL, takes a base URL and a path. Returns, I guess, the appended together thing. We have base URL. Okay, and we can set the environment variable, or by default it will use localhost. So this is actually really good. I forgot to ask it to make this a variable, but an environment variable works perfectly for what we want. That's going to be fine. It will, like, it won't, we can't use localhost because this is going to run on a microcontroller eventually, so it's not going to be on the Pi. Assert new links present. Test renders navigation, uses list. Template. Okay, I don't know. Renders markdown editor. So, yeah, I mean, this is not great, but a decent start. It doesn't look like this is testing any like actual posting or updating or anything like that. This is kind of just testing that the pages exist. In my eye, at least that's what it looks like. I actually want to move TinyWiki back. I'll just copy it. Actually, I do want to be able to see it in here for a second. So, server. Okay. Yeah, so /new/list and root. Those are the three. It looks like those are the only three that it has done so far. But partway there. Okay, this is good. This will at least let it be able to check like when the server is alive, if those pages are being returned or not. So next, what I would like is to get a few things. All right, so I have already a sample code for the server that runs on the Fruit Jam. One that uses a file. Okay. That one does use a file, so that's kind of... Or with the server, I guess. Okay, that's fine. So what we will do, so you can just do render template and then a file name. And then also it showed us here, we can give it the context as well. So I'm actually going to go back to my CircuitPython sample. Import this. ML file test template or example template. Title. Well, I think I have to do this. Item. Okay, so no, you don't have to put context. This will just be title. And then I'll put here h1, h2, message. So title, message, and then template engine. So on this, let's try turn render template, example template, HTML, context, title, hello, templates. Just maybe we just do hello or example, message, hello world, let's comma there, context. Okay, let's make sure this works. Oop. Go 6. Title is not defined. Do we need to use context? You need to use context. Oh, we do need to use context. Side of the template. So here it actually needs to be context. Access it just like a dictionary, like you would in Python code. Save that. Load this again. No. Error message. I put message? There's 3 S's. No. And has string has no send. I need to do something else. Print. So this will print, but I think I need something else still. There's a server example. Data server example here. Here that uses templates, directory listing, TPL. Which file uses that? Templates. Okay, templates, nice. To create a response. And the request and content type. Thanks. There we go. All right, title is example. H2 got filled in. All right, so this is sample code for the server. I guess, I mean, we'll see if it's gonna reference TinyWiki. I don't necessarily want it to look too close at this one because the whole network stack is different. The whole templating system is different. The web server is different, just part of the network stack in my mind, but that wasn't clear. That's also different. Everything about this is different except pretty much the template pages, which we've already pulled out. So there's really not much like benefit of it looking at that, I think, but maybe it will help it be able to do the conversion. I'm not sure. One more thing besides just this sample code that I am going to give it is I'm going to go ahead and install both of those libraries in its virtual environment. I don't know if it's going to find them in there or not. I might even just clone them also. I'd even just clone them also and tell it that there's example code in them if it needs to look at it. All right, so we're in agent, source, agent, bin, activate, pip, install, HTTP server, template engine. Then I am gonna just also maybe make dir libs. Am I gonna regret that? If it gets, is it gonna get that confused with CircuitPython concept of libs? I don't know. All right, clone both of those. We have template engine and HTTP server. So now one question is, do we continue this context where we wrote the test, or do we make a new one? And I think there's also like a fork. Get a new fork from a previous message. Guess we could do that. Or that, I guess, also, I mean, that means that we could always come back to this point, I suppose. But it is only for the session, so as soon as I close out of the session, that's gone. All right, let's keep going with this session then, I think. We'll see if that, see what that does. All right, so let's say, what all do we want to say here? So, great. Can you work on implementing the server script next? There's an example of implementing the server script next. We're trying to make it work with CircuitPython. There's an example script in, what do I call this? CircuitPython HTTP server example. CircuitPython HTTP server example.py shows how to make the server and render template files, context values in them. I've also cloned both the Adafruit CircuitPython HTTP server and Adafruit CircuitPython template engine libraries into libs folder. You can look at them if needed. there are more examples included inside of those repos. Please write a server that implements all required endpoints. Pass the test. Start there. It is going back into TinyWiki, which again, I'm not sure we want it to do really, but did it just gank Dan's copyright? No, that's a read. Okay. It's like, yeah, it's like, it's really referencing TinyWiki. Not sure if that's going to help it very well or not. Might get it confused. MicroPython stuff. And it's filling up to 10%. Like looking inside of Git folder? No, that's useless. Shouldn't be in there. I don't know why it's looking for TinyWiki. Well, we'll see what it does. And then again, this is still Codex Mini, and also I have thinking turned off. I don't know if that's default with Mini or that's a thing I can actually set or what, but theoretically, this is kind of like the least capable model, I would imagine, or the least capable model / configuration. To have amassed all the context it wants. Sure if it's created any files yet. No, I would not think so. We would see write commands here, I think, probably. Just reads everywhere. Oh, now it's writing. CircuitPython compatible TinyWiki HTTP server entry point. And run on regular CPython host. Great on that part, but we'll see what happens. Types. I think it's still. Really sure if it's still working or not. Did write this. It imported from TinyWiki, which we don't want at all. It also threw away the configuration for setting up the Wi-Fi network correctly. So as it said, I think this one might be made for render view page, render edit page. For socket. Socket is socket? Try to run that on 000, and it's going to try to run it on port 8000. So it's not exactly what we wanted. I think this is meant to run on CPython because it took out the whole like ESP32 SPI setup for the network. But maybe it will still work. And it has imported these things, which we didn't really want, but that's okay, I guess for now we didn't tell it, I suppose. Oh, okay, here it says finally. I think the scrolling gets weird when it tries to work for too long or something. So implemented this. Uses the bundled those from libs alongside with existing storage helpers. It ensures the pages directory exists. It seeds a default page. It exposes those. It renders every route with HTML templates and templates. Wiring the partials into the shared layout, providing context, lists, editor area, banners, markdown rendering, parses the data safely, persists markdown files, redirects appropriately so the PyTest suites are satisfied. You can run the server. And then you could execute the tests. Tests were not run. Okay. Python circuit TinyWiki server. Okay, it loaded up a server at least. 192.168. It'll be 1.13.8000. Template rendering function. Key error template rendering function. Create template rendering function. Okay. Tiny server 84. Render template. Lister. Page exists. Context. Template path? Just have a path problem here? Key error. Rendering template function. Rendering function from. Did it edit those? I mean, we shouldn't even be using these ones because we should be using the ones from virtual environment. Yeah, it's not edited. Well, that was the template one? Yeah, that's not edited either. View page. So this called into here. Template string. But I really think it maybe just didn't see the template correctly, honestly. Let's do root dir templates. Let's print this. Page. Necessarily care for how it's broken this part out. Print. I suspect that we don't need that root dir thing. Cursive? Yeah, I mean, that is, I suppose, correct. overall, but I think we really we don't really, I think we just kind of want / need this part only. I don't know if we need the rest. Makes this all weird now too. I'm just gonna Alright, I'm not trying to go to edit yet, so I don't know. Hopefully I can do these. Function. Still wrong. It has that though. Render with base. Content. Wiki content body. Base. So maybe the home, I guess. Home. So return response request says render view page. Content type is HTML. Render view page says page name. Check if that exists, and we are line 85. So we are, so that does exist. We go to here, we get the markdown content. They markdown parser to HTML, HTML content. Then we try to say render template, context, page name, HTML content. Page exists. This doesn't really need to be string, I guess. I don't think that's going to make it work either. View page exists. Has just a page name and a content. Should be able to put the content there. Body, render template. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that should be able to work. But it does your page with base. Yeah. Base. It's just HTML. So I don't know. Let's try that. Okay. Something not working with template engine. First of all, what's up, Mikal? Nice to see you, my friend. I don't know if it's template engine not working or if we have complete vibe coded attempt to use it here, so it's very possible that it just hallucinated the wrong way to use it, and that there's not actually a problem. That is what I am trying to figure out currently. It does look to me off the top of my head like it's using it correctly, but it has wrapped it in so many things. It makes it a little difficult to follow, if I'm honest. Like this. Then I am gonna try kind of each chunk of this and see. This was just body. I don't think. Yeah, maybe I am. At all. Hey Tim, hey everyone. What's up, Irisbone? See my friend. Hello world. Okay. I get the same error. Render template. Let's. Rendering function. But yeah, key for McCall, key error template rendering function is the actual output of the error. It's almost making me think that it's not able to see the template correctly, or we probably should use that for one thing. Template path and then context. In this, does it need dot slash? Oh. Template. I still kind of feel like it's just not finding the file. Totally should be, right? You send me the full church spec? Yeah, totally. I'll send you. I'll put the whole REPL here as well. In fact. But I mean, it works in this one. Different about this one. Render template. Well, I guess I never tried this one. Well, I tried it on the Right on the fruit jam. And on the fruit jam, do I need I don't think I need this, right? Context equals context? Does it have? I think it actually does have that. But it is hard-coded dictionary instead of context variable? Should matter, right? Content type? That's so content type's higher up. We're not even getting the rendering. Function. A template rendering function from template string. I think I almost just want to go find where this is at. And add a print statement? See if it has a template string. Or, I mean, could it be... Okay, let's try something real quick. Let's take example template, put it inside templates. Oh, I did not put the context. I did not put the context. Does exec work differently in CP10? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, because this totally is just trying to get HTML content and page name and all this, which is on me. Actually, earlier I told it the syntax, and I was just wrong about the syntax. Oh. Let's try this. Do we want to start a new one, or do we want to go in this one again? We had it write this stuff. So if I had stayed, if I had kind of kept my old session and I could fork back to where it split off the templates HTML files, honestly, that would be the best place to start the new thing I want to do. Let's just try leaving it here and see what it does. Okay. Oops. Well, this was a different instance, though. So let's just say... Actually going to cut that and move it out of templates. Can you please update all of the template HTML files inside of templates folder? The syntax for the variable substitution needs to include context. Instead of just the variable name. See example template. Uh-oh. HTML. What's up, Tyth? How's it going with the new PyAgent thing? Hadn't heard about that one until yesterday. Yeah, I had not heard of this one either until Scott mentioned it. So I'm testing it out, and I'd say pretty good so far. It's sort of like Claude Code. It definitely wants to like do more than you ask it. Like earlier I asked it to break out some HTML files, and it went and started editing Python code as well. So it's eager to do more than you ask it. I find that part similar to Claude Code. But this is really my first time using PyAgent, and also my first time using Codex as well. So it's like two new things at once here. Interestingly, this went back down. Wasn't this just at 17%? So it maybe truncated its own context or something? It's kind of interesting. So it looks like it would have swapped those. Okay. Yeah, context. Okay, so let's try the server now. Although, well, let's try this. Can I try this? Is this should work now? Does it work now? Should it work now? Oh, still it's the same thing. Template rendering function. I just don't know, like, is that a syntax? Is there an error in the template? Or is it telling me it can't find the template? See anything else that would be an error? This now does look correct to me. Page name and HTML content. Are those the two things that passed? Page name and HTML content. Need a debugging mode for the template so it explains the passing if necessary. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the templates just yet. Either parsing. I don't know if it's getting the right template and the right template has a syntax error and that's breaking it, or if it's not finding the right template and the error we see is its way currently of telling us that it couldn't find the file, so it got a none or something. The error's from the lib itself, 658. But under what condition does the error raise, I guess? Is it the file's not there, or something inside the file was different than we expected, but it should not behave like that? 68. What syntax error? No matching. Wait. All right, 658. That was backwards. Okay. Exec function def yield. Return a function. This function. No. After last token means any yield at the very end, return the function def. But could this be a CPython only problem? Maybe could this be a CPython only problem? So I am currently executing it in CPython. Maybe the template rendering doesn't work in CPython and it has to be CircuitPython. If I put templates here. Or render template. It's going to copy all these dots. I don't really want these. don't really want this to be split either, so it's easier to read. Okay, so that's a CPython problem. So probably exec works differently under CPython and CircuitPython, and then I guess that's probably where the issue is. So yeah, we want it not to run it on CPython. We want to. We don't want it to run on CPython. All right, so let's say right now CircuitPython TinyWiki server.py is written run on CPython, but I'd like it to run under CircuitPython instead. Please change the network /socket setup to do it how it shows in, what's the name of the other file? CircuitPython HTTP server example. Change the socket setup to do it how it shows it in CircuitPython HTTP server example.py. Must use the ESP32 py. Be able to figure that out, I think. For connection manager. Oh. Well, so yeah, I'll need to put connection manager on the thing, on the microcontroller. I don't have it in the VM, but I don't think I need it currently because it's not, it kind of swapped out its own whole network stack. Will not be able to run in CPython after this change. Only CircuitPython with supported ESP32 by Wi-Fi referral. All right, BRB. Works in CPython on my PC. Are you using a specific version? The thing that fails is related to how locals work. It seems like it doesn't. Seems like it does not save things executed from exec in locals. I am using the latest version that was installed from PyPy, with just pip install Adafruit CircuitPython template engine, which should be the latest released version, unless if the actions failed, in which case it could be behind. I didn't check on that. But it should be the latest version. I am running on Python CPython 3.13. It's on a Raspberry Pi and it has 3.13 by default. I could try Python 3.12 on my PC. Perhaps 3.13 and 3.12 are different in some way that affects it. Let's see here. What do we want? Okay, so where did this thing end up? Okay, there we go. No longer runs there. Hopefully it did this correctly. Looks. So it did change. The port is now 8,000, but it looks like it did the Wi-Fi setup correctly. The server should be good for now. Storage, not sure if storage is going to work really. All right, so I did copy the templates. I don't really want the Git folder or lib, honestly. I really want all of this. Really only want the things it needs, which is Markdown and storage. For example, module pathlib. Actually have Adafruit pathlib installed right now or not. No module typing. Can't do that like that. Not the right syntax. String has no parent. I don't know. We don't even need rootdir, honestly, because this is for templates dir. For pages dir. This is not helpful. We don't have a pages dir either, so it's gonna not work when it go only file system. Storage line 8 ensure pages dir. So it tried to probably just create the pages dir and failed. I really wanted to have the pages dir on root, but for now I'm just gonna put it so we can maybe get one step further. Okay, it thinks it's running. It thinks it's running on that port. That's the wrong IP. 206. Hey, okay, we have a page. The next problem is that everything that was part of the content got escaped. And if we don't want it to be escaped, we need to disable that somehow, which is with auto escape off or something. So technically this is not the safest project in the entire world to run, because we are going to be rendering Markdown to HTML and then rendering that into a page, and we have to turn the auto escaping off, which means if your Markdown contains things that are untrusted, it could end up putting malicious HTML on your page, which would be bad. In my case, I am kind of making the decree that I trust the Markdown that is inside of my little wiki here. Maybe we'll put a warning about that somewhere if I actually finish this out and release it to a project and such. But I think we could fix it with auto escape off, just like this. This would need to be in the found, like, page existing one. Templates. View page exists. So context here, this needs auto escape off. And we'll just put it back on afterwards. Okay. Now it's not, now it's like HTML, so we're getting closer. Found the problem. Python define, okay, it is what's new in 3.13, second paragraph, so it looks like there was a change. Right, this thing doesn't have a copy. Gotta highlight it. These days I'm gonna remember that. Today though. Changes the semantics of locals in optimized scopes, affects the default behavior for code executions that implicitly target locals if no explicit namespace is provided, such as exec and eval. In previous versions, whether or not changes be accessed in locals after calling code executions is implementation dependent. In CPython specifically, such code would typically appear to work as desired, but it could fail in optimized scopes based on other code, including debuggers, stack tracing, such and such. Will always run against the independent snapshot. So exec/eval with regards to locals changed behavior. Ooh. We are still escaped. We need auto escape off in one more spot. We need auto escape off here too, I think. Because we actually are technically, it's getting rendered through two templates. We need both of them not to auto escape it. Hey, there we go. Look at that. That's pretty sweet, actually. Has a shared namespace check to locals to get the updated values like eval does or something like that. We'll investigate further and hopefully make a PR with a fix for 3.13. Hey, thanks for looking into that. I saw you have another PR as well, which I am going to look into probably this upcoming week. So I'll check into that as well. I know you put it in a little while back, but it is on my radar. And as always, thanks again for all of the amazing work in both of these libraries. For anyone who doesn't know, both the HTTP server library and template engine in CircuitPython essentially are where they are because of Mikal here in the chat. So I'll report to them. All right, so we're there now. We're able to render the wiki. We got a page out of storage. We did the stuff. We're looking better now. What do I want to try to do? All right, so there are going to need to be some more things fixed, like we're going to have to go turn off auto escape in pretty much all the places. I mean, we don't have to. We could we could ask the old thing there to do it for us. But one way or another, we need auto escape turned off. The other thing is still, I would like to rework this to use the SD card. Right now, it is hard-coded to pages, which is in the root of CircuitPy, which is not writable. So if you were to try to create a new page, it's going to fail when you try to save it. Or if we were to try to edit this page, it would fail when we tried to save it. But I would like to change that to move those over to the SD card. And then it will basically be how I want, ultimately. Assuming that it all works, which we haven't tested at all. We could try to run the tests against it, I think, right? Couldn't we try to run the tests against it? As long as we gave it the IP of the CircuitPython device. I'm going to say instead of localhost, the CircuitPython device. And then see if those tests pass. Which I think, how do you do that? Just PyTest? PyTest? Will auto execute the ones in the folder? No module found requests. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm not crazy. I mean, I am crazy, but not for that reason. No, I'm not going to buy viewers. Okay. CPython comes with requests now, which I think is new, as far as I'm aware, as far as I know, or at least inside this Raspberry Pi, and also on Ubuntu, it's the same. It comes with requests in the system Python. I can just run Python, no virtual environment, import requests, it's there. But when you make a virtual environment, it doesn't get requests. I guess you would have to tack on that -- system packages or whatever. There's a flag when you create the environment that does that. But I was like, I swear that I just had a fresh install of Python and it had requests in it the other day. It's true, it did. But turns out it's not. It's automatically in the system Python, but not the environments. I wonder what else there is like that. Okay. We got 5 passes, 1 warning. The warning is what? Cannot collect test class test response because it has a init constructor from test client. That seems like it's trying to do something in here anyway. Honestly, we don't even really care about that. Test server endpoints. When was that? This was what? Tell me which test client. Didn't even tell me what test actually failed. Well, it didn't fail, I guess. It only just warned. There's only 5 tests, right? There's only 5 tests. None of them directly use TinyWiki either. Huh. How do we figure out which one failed? Or which one warned, I guess. I don't have any class test response. Yeah. Sure how to tell which one warned. But they did all pass, seemingly. Okay. Well, I think that I am probably going to go ahead and wrap it up for now. We have been at it for a couple hours. I think that it basically is there. Like, it looks like it would probably be working correctly once we swap out the storage system to go to SD card. I mean, I think that's the only thing it needs, honestly. And it looks like it should work after that. Again, we won't know about the actual saving until we do that. But as far as the reading, everything looks to be working now. We can see the list of pages. We can see the, we know we can see a page because we were able to load the home page, which is a wiki, same as any other page. We could fix this real fast. Let's fix this real fast. So we need more auto escapes. And in fact, we're going to need those pretty much everywhere, I think. Maybe not everywhere, but in a lot of places. This one being one of them. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to do the storage right now. But it does look like this thing did a decent enough job once we kind of corralled it to where we wanted it to go. This should... well, it's not going to auto restart because I'm editing this in the repo on the Pi instead of on the microcontroller. So the rest of these changes were here as well, so I'm going to go ahead and overwrite for all those back. Known token auto. I think that's just wrong. It should be auto, was it? Auto escape. Full word. IDE wants to be lazy. Suggest only half the word. There we go. All right, so the list page works. The home page works. Because the home page works, we know that rendering markdown pages generally works. Yeah, I think once we switch to SD card, the saving is kind of the last bit. As long as that works, then this is basically a successful CircuitPython port. Ty says, check for SD placeholder and otherwise default to your basic example. Nice work. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, I should have it. If the SD card is, yeah, we'll have it fall back. If the SD card's not there, we will show, maybe what we'll do is we'll show a welcome page that says, like, strongly recommended to use an SD card. If you don't, we could use CP saves instead, but you only have like a couple of megs. Or the other option is you could go and remount as writable, then you could use CircuitPy proper. But you won't be able to edit the code, so it gets wonky. You got to flip back and forth between writable and all that stuff. So yeah, that's actually a good idea. We'll fall back if the SD card's not there. We will render a markdown page that's like a welcome to the wiki system. That's like, here's the intended way you should set it up: is get an SD card, make sure that's plugged in, and we can also include some other stuff. One thing I would actually like to add to this, the original project, again, shout out, like, huge hug report to, is it Kevin McAleer? Kevin McAleer. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, so my apologies if not, but shout out to them, hug report, for making this thing and publishing it. One thing I will say is it doesn't have any authentication. So when the server is running, anyone on the same network can edit, delete, update, create new, anything inside your wiki. But I would actually like to add authentication, I think, and I don't think it will be that hard. And in fact, I would even like to go so far as to add like proper authentication handling, where we are gonna, I almost just opened a thing that I shouldn't. We are gonna, inside of settings toml, which I almost just opened, we're gonna add a a hashed password. So you get your password, whatever password you want to use, you hash it, SHA-256. We're going to store that in settings toml. And then on the updates and the deletes and the news, anything that writes data will validate that password against the hash. Still not super duper secure, right? I don't want to make this seem like it's totally all the way locked down at that point. Like, you are still HTTP, which means everything you're sending is in the clear text, including your password if you send that, right? So the router and anything that is like in between the two devices on the network can still see all of this in plain text. We don't have HTTPS or anything like that. So not super duper lockdown secure, but one step more than what we have now, which is wide open. Anyone on the network can do anything they want. We'll change it to where you need a password for writing. If that's set up, that'll be an option as well too, though. So you could leave it open if you want, or you could put the password if you want, and we'll do the SHA hash of it as well, so that we're not storing the plain text password. Oh, really? HTTPS is actually supported in the server. I did not know that. I don't know how to generate. I don't know. Or actually, did I see something about Let's Encrypt lets you do IP address ones now? I don't know how to do. I don't know how to generate like a local cert. I don't know how to create just a cert to use for testing. I know how to use Let's Encrypt, specifically with a thing called CertBot, which is like a command line tool that uses Let's Encrypt. I know how to use that to issue a cert for a server that has an actual URL pointed to it. But I don't know how to issue a cert for like an IP, for instance, like for the microcontroller. So yeah, I'd have to figure that part out. But if I did figure that out, we could maybe do HTTPS, it sounds like. There's info in the docs. Okay, I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Cool. All right. So we basically, we got there. It was a little bit of poking and prodding. I still have a lot of learning to do as far as like figuring out what it's good at, what it's not good at, what are the best ways to prompt it, like when do I need to explicitly tell it, don't do this, that sort of stuff. I think there's a lot of room for improvements. I'm curious about changing the thinking here. Curious about trying higher levels of thinking. I'm also curious about trying the other models. Right now, again, I've just been sticking on the sort of lowest powered model, the 5.1 Codex Mini, but there is Codex Regular, I guess. I don't know, that one doesn't say Codex, so I'm not sure. But there is Codex Max, and then there is Codex 5.2 and 5.3. So there's a couple of newer ones to try. Eventually I will test those out, but so far pretty cool. So far pretty cool. Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I will say I like this one compared to OpenClaw because it feels more limited and approachable. It feels like less like it's kind of doing anything and everything that it wants all the time, constantly checking in and stuff. This one is sort of like runs and does what you tell it and then just hangs out and waits. And doesn't have all the memory and all of the bells and whistles that OpenClaw does. But I kind of like that about it because you can kind of add bits and pieces as you want it. So if you want memory, you could implement a file saving thing that lets it do that. You know, if you want skills, you can add those still. So it kind of is like the kernel, the nugget of OpenClaw, the central sort of iteration cycle thing. But a lot more focused and a lot pared down, which I think is nice. Anyway, I will stop rambling for now. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I should be back next week. As far as I know, looks like Valentine's Day on Saturday. So on the 14th, I should be back for the stream. As far as I know, Scott's still doing deep dives, so I think he'll be around on Friday. Again, as far as I know, could change. Plans could change, TM. Until next time, I will say so long. Thank you for watching. Hope you all have a good day, a good weekend, and all that. And I will see you later.